afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the regular monthly board meeting of the Lake City Development Corporation for January 2014. Now let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Justin, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. All right, this is the first opportunity for anyone in the audience who would like to address the board. This is the first public comment opportunity. We'll have actually an extra one this meeting because we'll have a public hearing on our annual report. No one? Okay. So approval of minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes of December 18th, 2013.
So moved.
Second. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Tony, again, just for our audience sake, if you don't go and look at those minutes, they're very thorough. I don't know how many pages they are, but they're pushing 20. All right. No comments or questions or corrections. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. That takes us right into our 2013 Lake City Development Corporation draft annual report. Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'll do first is give a little background on the process, and I'll walk through the annual report that will be on the screen and be shown on TV, and then we'll take some public comment. But just for some background, there was a change to the urban renewal statutes in the summer of 2011 that now requires urban renewal agencies to accept public comment on their annual reports before they go to City Council. So the following LCDC process has been established to meet this new statute requirement. So what happened is the draft 23 annual report to council was posted on the LCDC website's homepage a week ago prior to this board meeting. A public notice ran in the Coeur Press a week prior to this board meeting, indicating that the LCDC board will accept public comment on the annual report at this board meeting. The notice states that the draft report is posted online and also states that written public comments are welcome and can be submitted to me via email or snail mail. Public comment on this annual report will be a discrete agenda item today. When this agenda item is addressed, an overview of the annual report will be provided by me. The LCDC chairman will then ask if there's any public comment on the annual report. The board will then listen to any public comment and then review any written public comments that I received. The board can then choose to discuss any issues they wish, direct me to make any changes or modifications to the report before I submit it to City Council. The board will then approve the draft report and via motion direct me to proceed to submitting this to City Council. So with that background, what I'll plan to do is just kind of walk everyone through the draft annual report. It's shown on the screen here. I didn't make hard copies from you since it's not finalized, so if you could all work up from the screen and you can track that with our viewing audience. So basically, the first page of the report is just an introduction and just shares with the reader an overview of our LCDC vision and mission. The second page summarizes the initial look at our LCDC strategic goals, which focus on education, job creation and retention, workforce housing, public space. Page 3 continues with the goals, including a discussion on public parking, midtown vitalization, and downtown vitalization. Page 4 gives an overview of the board's tactical goals that they use to achieve the long-term strategic goals, and I have both fiscal year 2013 tactical goals in the upper table, as well as the fiscal year 14 goals in the lower table. Page 5 begins a discussion and summary on current initiatives that I update City Council on, including McEwen Park, the higher education campus, Midtown placemaking, our workforce affordable housing initiatives. Page 6 continues with basically a closure on the North Idaho Centennial Trail Foundation partnership, which involved the Prairie Trail Initiative. We discuss our initiatives regarding the Urban Land Institute programs in Coeur d'Alene. Page 7 continues with discussion of the Riverstone West Phase 2 Improvement Reimbursement Agreement, our new Circuit at Southeast project, a summary and a discussion of the Riverstone West Phase 1, and Mill River owner participation agreements, our partnership with the Coeur Lane Downtown Association, the new initiative with the partnership of the City of Coeur d'Alene and the Downtown Association involving ADA downtown compliant sidewalks. Just a reminder of our communication consultants, the excellent help that we have with Keith Erickson and Tree Taylor. Page 8 continues on. A little summation on the Kootenai Youth Recreation Organization ice skating facility, the proposed new initiative with the North Idaho College Event Center, key partnerships, knowledge sharing, communication and outreach, and finally, discussion of our Lake District strategic property portfolio. Page 9 of the report just kind of gives a summary of our board membership and committees, as well as transitions that we have on the board, starting with the great loss that we suffered when Jim Elder left us, continuing on with the welcoming of Mick Arman to our board. Page 10 just concludes a summary to the report. Page 11 just lists our strategic property portfolio in our Lake District and Exhibit A. And then the final 2 pages are excerpts from our fiscal year-end audit for fiscal 2013 as required by the annual report, showing a balance sheet and a P&L breakdown for expenditures. So that's kind of a run-through of the annual report that I will submit to City Council. When I present this to City Council, I also have a PowerPoint presentation that will go through. It'll probably take about 45 minutes to go through at City Council on February 4th. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn that over to you.
All right, so do we have any public comment on the draft? Is it a 2013 or 2014?
2013.
2013 annual report. Seeing none, any comments by the board, commissioners?
Just to share with the board, I did not receive any written public comment via email or regular mail.
And maybe for Mick's benefit, I think Tony said this, but he will, once this is finalized, he'll take this report and give a presentation to the City Council at one of their regular meetings. Yeah. Any comments, corrections, additions?
The date to City Council?
I believe I have February 4th. February 4th.
With some new members, it will be an opportunity to
Exactly.
educate those folks.
And I'll go into much more detail on these different items to kind of bring everybody up to speed and show before and after pictures and really kind of refresh everybody's memories of all the things that we've done and why we do things and our model, financial models. So.
All right. Do we need a motion to approve it?
Yes.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the draft 2013 annual report.
I move we approve the Lake City Development Corporation 2013 annual report.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that. Committee reports. Finance, Mr. Caldwell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We will start with the Lake District, if we could. If you go to the balance sheet of the Lake District first, the Lake District did have an increase in cash during the month of $35,887. There was not a whole lot of other activity on the asset side of the balance sheet, but in the liabilities and fund balances, we did have a large increase as far as payables go. Because we took a draw last month from the Washington Trust bond of $880,000 to pay for numerous bills with the McEwen project. So the total increase of our notes payable is $868,094. The bulk of that is the draw, and then there's $11,906 debt payments obligations that we took care of during the month. Everything else stayed about the same. If you go to the profit and loss for the same district, which is Lake, you'll see that we did receive tax increment revenue of $87,694. We had rent income from our properties of $10,540, interest income of $435, miscellaneous income of $595, for a total of $99,264. On the expenditure side, you'll see the first item that we have an expenditure on, $5,424. That is a little bit higher than a typical month, but that's due to our first payment of the Magnuson and McHugh audit invoice. You go down a little bit further, and you'll see that we have the large payment on the McEwen Park, $87,929, and that reflects a payment to CNI of $803,318, ACI of $60,094, and then Team McEwen of $14,517. So as you can recall, for the last several months, we've had large items flowing through there for those payments. You go down a little bit further.
Just correction there.
Absolutely.
You said $87,929. It should be $877,929.
Correct. Thank you. For sure, much bigger number than 87,000. If you go to
Not up very good.
no, that wouldn't make sense. If you go to repairs and maintenance, you'll see that we had $28,253, but most of that was $23,085 for our work on the 720 Young apartment complex and also the demolition work that we had done during the month. Down a little bit further, about 2/3 down the page, you'll see tax and increment payments. We paid some property taxes of $1,731. So you go to total expenditures for the month of $932,378 for a negative balance between revenue and expenses of $833,114. So an active month for the the Lake District, and that will continue until we have spent the rest of our money on the McEwen project. Any question about the Lake District before we move on to the River District? Seeing none on the River District, let's start with the balance sheet there as well. Certainly less activity. The River District had an increase in cash of $16,160 during the month. No other significant items on the balance sheet for assets or liabilities. So let's go ahead and go to the profit and loss. And you can see that we did collect, or we did receive, $28,594 in tax increment revenue from the county. We had some interest income of $472 for a total of $29,066. On the expense side, you'll see that we had professional fees of $6,182. And again, that's primarily due to the Magnuson McHugh audit invoice. And then you go down a little bit further, and you'll see the next big item, which is shared each month between the two districts of payroll, $4,706. Total expenses, $13,477. And we actually had income above revenue for the month of $15,589. So the River District certainly is much simpler without a lot of activity during the month. And let's see. That's really about it for the balance sheet and the profit and loss. Any questions about either of the districts? If not, I'd like to move on to the payables. Tony, have you already passed those out? Okay.
You're stuck at the chairman's desk.
All right. So the payables for the month, we'll start at the top of the page with Elam and Burke, general counsel on a few issues that we had, total of $425.50. Holly Troxel services during the month of $910. Molitor and Associates Consulting, Government Relations, $2,356.71. And then Keith Erickson, Communication Coordination of $1,400. Next, you have Magnuson McHugh, their second invoice of $3,500. And then you go down to the McEwen project, and you'll see this is where the bulk of our money is being spent. We had another invoice that we need to pay of $649,977.26. We have a bill with Team McEwen of $6,458.15. Total on all the items that we have for the month, $656,700. $665,027.62. If you look to the right-hand side of the list of payables, Tony breaks out what we paid so far and what this payment is, so you end up with a total, keeping in mind that our funding commitment for the project was $15,624,800. So it's, as we get through a few more months that are active, I expect, Tony, the bills the next month or two won't be very big until we get through the weather, but then they'll pick up again and we'll be spending the bulk and the rest of our money. So as it relates to the financials and payables, are there questions on any of the payables that we have for the month? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval of the financials and approval to pay the payables.
Is there a motion?
I move to pay the bills and accept the financials as presented.
Second? Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded to approve the financials and the payables for the month. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Tony, I just have one question. I see that the ACI McEwen project now is complete. We've paid that fully.
Right.
Did that actually come in under bid? It appears that way, slightly.
It did a little bit, some change order work. They actually took a little portion of the project away from them, so that it did come under, the actual paid came under bid.
Okay.
But from the entire project side, it's still a $19 million project at this point.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we'll have Ben Johnston join us from Madison McHugh to give us the report. Just so the commission knows, the Finance Committee did meet with Ben, went over the report, asked numerous questions, which I'm sure you'll have some questions too, and feel comfortable with the analysis and the work that he's done. So Ben, go ahead.
And this, just for the audience at home, this is our 2013 audit of our financials. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you. So I'm in charge of the Lake City Development Corporation's audit. I'm with Magnus and McHugh. I think everybody has a packet. Looks like this. Okay. So I'll point you to page 1. This is our independent auditor's report. This is basically this is a summary of what we've done throughout the course of the engagement, which means we've applied our procedures, confirmed account balances, checked to make sure that we agree with various accounting positions that have been taken in the financial statement. And based on the procedures we've applied, we believe that the financial statements are stated correctly or materially correct. And so that's to say the same thing. It's like a clean opinion or an unqualified opinion on the financial statements. So in addition to that, we also have another report at the very back of the financial statements on page 39. What this is that the first report is a positive statement. It means we've come in and we're saying we believe the financial statements are correct based on what we've done. In this report, what we do is we report on internal controls, and basically what we're saying is during the course of the procedures we applied, we had the opportunity to examine numerous internal controls and specifically identify controls over major transaction classes and account balances. And based on our review of those internal controls, we did not find any control deficiencies, anything that we believe needed to be reported to the board or management. So another way of saying that is it's a clean report, but not a clean opinion. We aren't offering an opinion on controls. We just didn't find anything that we need to report. So does anybody have any questions about the reports before I kind of move on to kind of a summary of just kind of some notable things in the financial statements? Any questions? Okay. So first thing I'll mention is if you go to page 11, just to kind of give you an idea of what we do throughout the course of an audit engagement, is this represents your balance sheet, and then on page 12, that's your income statement. And it looks quite a bit different than what you're probably used to seeing if you're used to seeing private sector financials, but once you get used to it, it's just, even though it's called a statement of net position, it's really just a balance sheet. And what we do is we come in and our job is to corroborate the balances listed on the balance sheet and the transaction classes or revenue and expense items on the income statement. And, for instance, what we do with cash and cash equivalents on page 11 is we just look to the bank to confirm those amounts. If there's reconciling items, we confirm that the reconciling items are reasonable and that maybe they cleared the bank on a subsequent bank statement just to make sure that they're valid in that regard. With property taxes receivable, we confirm those balances directly with the county. And we use various techniques, kind of depending on the nature of the account and the nature of the available evidence. Long-term liabilities, down in the liabilities section, that's mostly just a procedure which involves confirming those balances are correct with the financial institution. So, if you look at your balance sheet there, all but just a few accounts are quite significant. So we focus our procedures on the more significant items and kind of back off when it gets down to the really small ones. So like we didn't really do a great deal with tenant deposits receivable. We checked for reasonableness, but we didn't do a lot of confirmation work. But when it was all said and done, probably over 98% of your balances were confirmed as a result of our audit procedures. So that's just kind of a summary of what we do. Does anybody have any questions?
Ben, I have a question maybe you could just share with the group.
Okay.
How do you confirm those? What is the process?
It's like, for instance, long-term liabilities, amounts due within 1 year and due within more than 1 year. There's a schedule back in the notes which ties to those amounts. So I'll find it. Whoop.
28.
It's on page 32. So that lists all of your debts that are currently outstanding. And so what we do is, even though they're identified by the property associated with the debt, we identify the financial institution associated with the debt, and then we write up a confirmation and ask them to fill in the appropriate amounts, the interest rate, the balance as of September 30th.
And you compare that with what we have been saying all along that we have.
Right.
Same with the cash. You send the confirmation to the banks and they put down the dollar amount in the accounts.
In this case, we use, we just look at the bank statements themselves.
Okay.
There's enough security features available in bank statements nowadays that it's, we can look at those and look at watermarks and,
Sure.
and other items and not have too much concern that, that it's not a legitimate bank statement. So kind of the profession steered away from sending confirms directly to the banks because of those features.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So, and there's also just a couple other noteworthy items. If you look at page 12, the bottom of page 12, there's a prior period adjustment. And there's an associated note disclosure to go along with that, and that's on page, should be the last. It's on page 36. And what happened is there was this arrangement, which you're all aware of, between the North Idaho Centennial Trail Foundation and the LCDC, which when we were putting the report together last year, we knew that the property that the LCDC desired to get out of this equation was not going to be acquired, and essentially it was not correct to show an amount due from the North Idaho Centennial Trail Foundation anymore. In other words, it would be unfair to represent the financial statement that way. And at the time, it looked like that particular transaction had fallen through and it was simply over with, and that the receivable needed to be written off. And so that's the way the accounting was handled at the time. And so once we got into this fiscal year and more evidence came into the light, it was clear that the arrangement, which ultimately took place, also involved land being given to the LCDC and then the LCDC immediately giving it to the city of Coeur d'Alene. And so to correct to get it right on both the balance sheet and the income statement. And so the effect of that is the $3.2 million down there at the bottom of the page. Okay. And then one other item is just the cumulative effect of change in accounting principle. GASB issued a new standard, GASB 65, which requires that deferred loan costs, which used to be capitalized, which were just the cost of acquiring debt, no longer be capitalized on the balance sheet. And so to get them off the balance sheet, the $71,000 adjustment was necessary to comply with the new standard.
Ben, just one question. The $3.2 million that's in the prior period adjustment, that will actually, they'll show up on the City of Coeur d'Alene's audit too. So they'll
Correct.
be balanced off of both of those.
Yeah. And so on the income statement, the wording of the actual, what happened there, like LCDC calls it public improvements. In other words, the land that was given to the City of Coeur d'Alene is considered a public improvement by the LCDC. And so the City of Coeur d'Alene's report is kind of in process still, but they'll bring it in as like land granted from the Lake City Development Corporation or something like that. So there'll be a matching debit and a credit. So, okay, any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Ben? Let me go to the next item on the
I
agenda.
think we need to accept the audit, do we not, Tony?
Yes, we do. We need a
So
motion to-
we need a motion to accept the 2013 audit.
I move that we accept the Lake City Development Corp. audit from Magnus McHugh for 2013.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the audit for 2013. Any discussion? Other than thank you, Ben.
It's already gone.
He's already gone.
It's quick.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
We have another meeting.
Okay, now you can go to your next item, Rod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you recall from prior meetings, we have talked about conditions and requirements if we got involved with the North Idaho College on the Event Center. And one of those conditions that we said was we would need to analyze our balance sheet and our profit and loss statement to determine our ability to borrow money, how much, under what terms and conditions, and then once that analysis is done, it's easier to come back to the full commission and say, well, here's what we can do. It's really just a matter of how you allocate your resources. So as we did last time, we hired an expert to do that for us. And the expert is Piper Jaffray Financial Consulting. They did the one for us on the Lake District. They would look at the River District on this, and then they just look at the possibility of other things that could come down the road that we would need. So I've got a motion that I'd like to make concerning that analysis. The cost for that analysis is a spending cap of $20,000. That is the same as we had on the Lake District when we did that analysis. The gentleman that did the work for us really did a good job, and then it allowed the Finance Committee to fully analyze and decide conservative, moderate, maybe aggressive, where we might be. As you recall, on the McEwen project, we left ourselves a little bit of room because we wanted to take a conservative approach to what our revenue would be. So Finance Committee has met. We're going to recommend that we hire Eric Herringer and his team to take a look at our district and do an analysis. But we don't want to restrict the motion strictly to River District in case we need to utilize him for something in the Lake District that may come up. So I will read through this briefly. Tony, I think you passed it out. Is it preferable that I read what it says for the whole board and viewing audience? Okay. We know as a finance committee that we're going to need to spend some time in 2014 working through a capital allocation prioritization exercise for the River District. With several projects on the horizon, we need to make sure that our funds are invested wisely, optimizing the benefit to the community. To that end, the Finance Committee recommends that LCDC engage Eric Herringer's team with Piper Jaffray to assist us in analyzing the River District financial alternatives. They will evaluate the potential financial capacity of the River District, and they'll assist us in evaluating the pros and cons of entering into a public bond financing scenario or possibly a private bank placement scenario. We could go either way. The Finance Committee wants to make sure that the LCDC can afford to be a financial partner in any significant LCDC board commitments within the River District, such as the NIC Event Center. The fee proposal assumes that Piper Jaffray will act as a financial advisor to LCDC in evaluating our revenues, structuring our debt, and developing possible debt obligation placement strategies, both private and public placements. Piper Jaffray's fee for this proposed financial advisory services engagement will have a spending cap of $20,000. So, having read that, I'm really reading that as a motion on what we would like to do, and I'd open it up for discussion.
Chair would accept that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Rod, I guess my question is the spending cap was $20,000 on the Lake District. Is the scope going to be similar for the River District? Or the River District's obviously smaller. Wouldn't that be a smaller scope of a project?
Well, you're right that it's smaller as far as what we do. The analysis of our numbers as far as going through our income and what our expenses are, while they are less, the analysis is basically the same because we have to determine how much we can spend. Now, Tony, I don't know if you've had that conversation with Eric about the size of the district and the complexity of the district, because it is less complex. Any thoughts on that, Tony?
Yeah, Mick, I did have that conversation with Eric, and he is aware that this is, in a way, a more simpler analysis, but he is not completely sure of what might be happening, so that's why we put the cap on it, and it'll be on an hourly basis about how they'll bill us. So on the Lake District, in our past effort with Eric, we had a cap of $20,000, and we actually paid a little over $17,000. So we'll use that same model here. He'll bill us on a time and materials basis, and we'll hopefully come out a lot smaller than that. And Danielle's been in the conversations also.
Dave.
And Tony, as a follow-up, obviously, the main project that we're talking about is the event center, which isn't in the district. And so we're going to have some, you might say, some assumptions that are going to be made that in fact, there's going to be a district adjustment, boundary adjustment to include that. So that'll be part of the analysis that they do too, including those assumables.
Right. The assumption will be that, would the River District have the economic horsepower to, be a strong financial partner in this endeavor as proposed, which may include the modification of our River District as it is planned right now. So that'll kind of be in the mix, but the new geography that theoretically could be included in the River District will not play into the analysis, because if it does happen, it would pretty much go tax exempt, so it wouldn't be an economic engine, it wouldn't be a component of that economic engine, but it'll all be considered.
But part of that, I think, was including land that, in fact, would be, let's see, the land was greater than the event center needs.
Correct.
And so there might be some commercial development on that land, correct? Depending on who owns it?
Depending on who owns it,
Okay.
but the latest model I heard is that it would all be in the public realm.
Oh, okay.
That nothing would be retained for commercial, but
Okay.
that could change.
Okay.
I think, as we go through this analysis and we get the information and we come back to the commission, like we did last time, it's a matter of choices, really. How much money you spend on X, and then how much does that leave you for something else, either an unknown item that could crop up or something we think's on the horizon. And then also factoring in that we just want to leave ourselves a bit of a cushion for things we don't control, like levy rates and assessed values and different things that can change. And that's why it's really nice to hire an expert to tell us, because he knows how these work, he's an expert at urban renewal, what we could do if we want to. And the Finance Committee feels much more comfortable with having the expertise and money well spent, I think, for the whole board to make sure that we're doing things right.
He did a very good job for us last time, and I think helped us walked us through how we put together a very conservative revenue model that we feel very comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I would note that I see Eric Herringer is the lead person. Looks like he's changed firms since last time.
Correct. And when the analysis was done for the Lake District, Eric was associated with Seattle Northwest firm, and since that time, the Idaho organization has become a part of Piper Jaffray.
Danielle, can you weigh in on his expertise?
I think he's absolutely the right person to do it in the state.
Yeah.
He's the one that's doing these types of analysis. Now, I don't even know how to make that plural.
Yeah. But he's done several.
He's the right, I think he's the right person for the job. And he did a great job on the Lake District. And they also helped walk you through the RFP process where a bank was selected, where you were able, he was able to say, these are the things that are going to be critical to the bank, and these are the things they may give on. So we were able to develop an RFP, where you dictated the terms versus the banks dictating the terms. And so his expertise goes beyond the financial
The bank
analysis.
financing in that district ended up being less expensive for us than a true placement of a bond.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other discussion, questions? We have been presented with a contract, so we need authority for us to enter into that contract. So the chair will entertain a motion to that effect.
Is that part of the motion?
There already has been one.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. We started off this time with the motion. So no other discussion. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Rod.
Mr. Chairman, just one final element to add on Mr. Caldwell's report is I just want to share with everybody the first quarter FY fiscal year 14 partnership project summary packet that I put together for the Finance Committee. As always, please feel free to take this and review it. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. We can discuss it.
Okay, any comments on that before we move on? Thank you, Tony. Deanna, any Housing Committee activity to report? Deanna, any Housing Committee?
We are starting some conversations with the Idaho Housing Group on the Midtown project. That's just very much in the preliminary. We'll try to set up a meeting probably next month.
With some area stakeholders, I take it? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Parking Committee, Commissioner Jordan.
Nothing significant to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Communications Committee, Commissioner Patzer.
Mr. Chair, the only thing that's happened significant-wise from our last meeting was our newsletter. I believe it's out. Keith and Tree continue to do a great job on that, so encourage everybody to review that and catch up on what's been going on the last month. So, nothing other than that.
I think the star of our newsletter is in the audience. Mr. Cooper.
Yep.
Downtown Association. Welcome. All right, would encourage our audience to take a look at that newsletter. And with that, that takes us to our Executive Director's report. Tony.
Mr. Chairman, just one item here, and Jeff, if you could put our goal sheet up on the big screen for our viewing audience. I'll pass out a hard copy. But just want to take a moment to share with the board kind of an updated status report of where we are on our fiscal year 2014 tactical goals. As I mentioned in my discussion during the annual report, the board sets long-term strategic goals that for both districts and the organization, and each year they come up with annual tactical goals to try to achieve or to move down the path on achieving those strategic goals. So we have these in place. We use a green, yellow, red scoring system to kind of show visually how we're doing on everything. And at this point in time, since we're only 3 months into our fiscal year, I think we're doing fine on all fronts. These goals involve public space, communication, work on the higher education campus involving student and potential faculty housing, Finance Committee work, our parking initiatives, workforce housing, and jobs. So I think we're doing fine on all fronts. Still, we've got some things to do. We got some time to do it. So I'd entertain any comments if you don't disagree with my grades at this time. But otherwise, I think we're looking fairly well.
Who are we to challenge your green grade?
There you go. There you go. Well said, Mr. Chairman.
I'm wondering, did anybody get to the Four Corners Planning Open House this week? Dave, I thought you might have been. You have any report from that?
Very well attended. It was almost sitting room only. This place is pretty well filled up. A lot of good input. People, I think, once they started to understand the process that we had gone through up till this point with Parks and Recreation, they started understanding also Bureau of Land Management's real estate representative was there, and she helped people to understand the path that we are on for this process. And we kind of broke up into groups afterwards, took a lot of comments from people, both written and verbal. And 2 weeks from last Monday, we will have our regular Park and Rec meeting, in which there'll be another presentation and probably action acted upon to make a recommendation to City Council on proceeding with this planning process. So very well attended. People can still give input if they'd like to via the Parks and Recreation City website and or written comments, or show up at the meeting on I think it's the 29th, which is a Monday.
Very good.
Tony, just one question on the McEwen Park construction. I know there's been some comment recently that it might be running a little bit behind. Have you had any insight or any comments on that?
I've talked with our project management team with Welch Comer, and they're 99% sure we're going to have a May opening. And there has been some talk, and we've talked about this a while back, of maybe opening it in stages instead of just kind of waiting and just having one big ribbon cutting. Like if the time is available, or if the conditions warrant, maybe let the basketball courts and tennis courts open earlier. That still hasn't been agreed to with the contractor due to liability and warranty issues, so they're going to have to work that out. So there might be a quote-unquote soft opening on certain elements of the park as the spring unfolds, but the overall celebration of a ribbon cutting is scheduled for May.
Thank you.
Tony, how about a follow-up question on the costs? There's been comments in the paper that it's coming in above costs. Where are we at on that?
We are within budget.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Anything to with, I mean, there's got to be some potential leeway there if we have a wet spring or a cold spring or something. I mean, if you have days like today where it's 50 degrees out there, it looks like we should be able to keep on going at full speed. But I know at on the education corridor, there was times when they had to delay because of planting or trees or whatever, so there's got to be some caveat for that.
Well, there'll be some, even if there's some of those issues that are remaining in our punch list form, they'll still have the ribbon cutting and the parks will be open, but if there's still some trees to be planted or some landscaping to be done, that might be happening in June, July,
Sure.
based on nursery issues or things like that. So
Great.
it won't be 100% ready in May, but it's going to be usable.
And you only said they're 99% sure. You didn't say
I didn't say
100%.
100%.
It's a construction project.
Right.
If I can invite Mr. Erickson up, since he represents the city and LCDC, he might have some insights to share on this matter.
I think Tony summed it up well, that the full intent, as it always has been, is for a May opening for McEwen Park. There might be some grass issues, some vegetation, but the intent, I spoke with the city today and the mayor, and I know there's been some confusion around this issue, but the full intent, the city is working closely with the Contractors Northwest and going full bore and working on a daily basis, and will be public updates. But the intent is, as Tony mentioned, a May opening. So we don't see any reason for that not to happen.
Meaning more late May than early May, right?
A
Memorial
May
Day.
opening is what we're looking at. I think.
Well responded.
Work for the city.
So,
Are you a lawyer?
but I think it's important for the public and the board to know that people are working. I mean, the city is working closely with the contractor to make sure, and we do have some good weather, so hopefully some concrete can get laid and the project will continue to move forward. I don't know how many, I'm sure you've all been out there lately, but there's a lot of construction work going on, which is good. They're building stairs right now in the sub-level parking lot, which gives access directly up to Front Avenue. So there is progress going on, and things are looking good, and we're looking, for May to be the time to celebrate.
I was over there this morning and noticed a fair amount of activity, some form construction
On the
going on
sidewalk,
for some
yeah.
concrete work over on the plaza, on the Veterans Memorial Plaza area.
And they have,
Complain about this winter.
No.
as everyone knows, Front Avenue is now open clear through. The sidewalk is the next project to occur between 5th and 6th on the north side. So that will occur. So things are moving forward. There was some confusion and some discrepancies, among the public. But again, I want to emphasize that May is what the city and we're all hoping for, and we're optimistic that'll happen.
All right. Thank you, Keith. Tony, anything else?
No, sir, that's all.
Okay, this is, next item is board commissioner comments. Just anything for the good of the order from the members of the board. Dave.
I want to offer correction. I think I told January 29th, 's the next Park and Rec meeting. It'd be, I think it's January 27th, which is, it's on a Monday night.
What time?
I believe it'll be at 5:30
Here?
Yep, right here.
and on TV.
Right. Any other comments? Okay, public comment? Anybody in the audience like to address us on any matter? Okay, seeing none. The chair will entertain a motion to enter into executive session under Idaho Code Section 67-2345, Sub 1, subsection C, regarding acquisition of an interest in real property not owned by a public agency.
Move to go into executive session under subsection C.
Second.
Yeah, I'll second Commissioner Hassel's motion.
Roll call.
Goodlander,
Yes.
Caldwell,
aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Hassel, yes. Hatcher,
Aye.
Hoskins,
Aye.
Ruffle, Jordan,
Yes.
Army.
Yes.
Okay, we will move into executive session. Thank you very much for coming.